Bit of a jazzy version of it, that, actually. It's not going to make sense what I'm going to say now. Hi to everyone. This is my first conference. I'm the new Research and Information Officer. I can't really call myself new anymore while Julie's only been here for 6 weeks, but I'm the new Research and Information Officer. Just to give you a bit of my background, so the reason I chose that song, I did some study in Africa, and that song is an African song that it's called Shosholoza in my best accent. And it originally was a slave song that they used to sing to keep morale going, but now it has more of a sort of feeling of let's all band together and work together for a common good cause. So I thought it was quite good for today. Because it's my first conference, and I know it's a lot of other people's first conference, I've kept this really basic, and we're starting out with the whole world, because that's how we started the conference. So, in the whole world, cancer incidence and mortality, how many people do you think each year are diagnosed with cancer in the entire world? Please shout out.
1 in 3.
A number, it's 1 in 3, yeah, 1 in 3 in the UK. 10 million? Higher?
20 billion?
Oh, it's lower than that. We'll go in the middle. 14.1 million cases per year have been diagnosed. Well, this was in 2011. It was 14.1 million cases. And in 2011, how many people do you think died of cancer? Bit higher. Just over half, so 8.2 million deaths. So obviously it's a big issue worldwide, so we want to study it. And this report is from the International Cancer Research Partnership. It's in 2008. It's a bit delayed because they have to get research from all around the world and collate all that together. But what this report is for is to see basically how your country funds cancer research, and they collate it all. So they have partners in Australia, Japan, France, the Netherlands, the UK, US and Canada. So in this report, in 2008, how much money do you think around the world was spent on cancer research?
Billion.
Are you going American billion or UK billion?
I'll go €1 billion just to be completely.
I'll put it in pounds. So, any extras on that? So, it's 2,797 million if you're using our billions, or 2.7 billion if you're using the American billions. So, again, big problem, and we're spending lots of money on it. But this paper also came out in 2008, and that looked at a lot more countries, because as you can see on here, all of these sort of white areas are not included in that report, and they estimate that it's probably about 4 times this number going on around the world. So we're spending a lot of money on it because it's a big problem. So how about in the UK? How many people diagnosed per year in the UK? Also in 2011. Not that many, which is good. 331,000 cases. And mortality? About half again, yeah. So again, big problem in the UK. So this study was published by the NCRI, which is the National Cancer Research Institute, and they have 22 different partners that put a lot of money into funding cancer research. So this was looking at what we spent in 2002 and what we spent in 2011. So in 2002, we spent about 257 million, but in just under, or about 10 years, we've actually doubled that. So that's not all the cancer research that's going on in the UK, that's just what's funded by these partners. But I've used these because, well, I'll come to that a bit later. So, primary bone cancer, there's about 600 cases per year in the UK and Ireland, and we all know that the survival rates haven't changed in over 25 years. So we really need research to change this. So going back to that original worldwide report, as Andy was saying, because bone cancer is a rare cancer, it tends to get lumped into the other cancer groups. So in this, there's £470 million spent worldwide on other cancers, which equates to about 16% of the total spend. But how many other cancers do you think are in that group? Primary bone cancer is one of them, I've checked. Yeah. In this report, they only included 50, but still, yeah. Still, we don't know how much of that has gone on. Yeah. So, what I've done now is looked at the cancer research output. So this is a chart of all the research papers that are about primary bone cancer that have been produced in the world since 1843, apparently was the first one. So as you can see, sort of late 60s, early 70s is when we really started looking into it. And quite positively, it steadily increased. 2014, obviously, we've not finished yet, so hopefully that will be a lot higher by the end of the year. So I think that's really encouraging that we're getting people interested in studying it. So why has progress been still quite slow? So I've put this one in, breast, one of the big cancers. Lots of people get it, and we've also had a lot of improving outcomes in breast cancer. So I've just compared the amount of research that's gone on in breast cancer since the 1980s to bone cancer. And if you might not even be able to see at the back, the little teeny red lines are the bone cancer lines. So that, even though people are interested in researching bone cancer, and more people are, and there's more and more studies out there, we've still got a lot to learn. So this is why I chose the NCRI report, because they actually publish yearly how much they spend on other cancers, but they actually go down to specific cancers. So on the purple, which looks black on the top graph, is what those 22 different partners funded in primary bone cancer research from 2002 to 2013. So I've added in BCRT's funding in the blue line, and then the green line is the total of that amount of funding. So far, since 2006, we've funded £1.7 million worth of research in primary bone cancer. And altogether, the graph at the bottom shows total funding, cumulative funding, since 2002 to 2013, which is just under £8 million. So I think, as a small charity, if you look at 2006 when we started, that's sort of where the graph starts to change. So I think, as a small charity, we've funded quite a huge chunk of the primary bone cancer research that's going on in the UK. So what do we do with that money? So again, some of you might already know this, but for our newcomers, currently we fund 4 different types of grants. We've got small grants, which are for less than £10,000, and they're for like ideas. You think something might be a good idea, but you just need to test it out before applying for a massive grant. So that's what those are for. The pump priming grants, you've got an idea, it does work, but you need some more data to apply for a bigger grant, and they're for less than £30,000. The project grants are for like quite a substantial study, and they're less than £75,000. And then we've recently been offering fellowships. So they're kind of twofold. So we get the research out of the fellowship, but we also give back to the person doing the research because they can get a PhD or an MD qualification out of it. And hopefully, if they get the qualification out of it, that will mean that they will continue to research in the bone cancer field. So we're sort of helping bone cancer researchers of the future. So we will fund anything to do with primary bone cancer as long as it's a good study. And the way that we do that is everything above 10,000, the £10,000 grants get assessed by our independent scientific advisory panel, and the other grants have a number of assessment phases to make sure that what we're spending the money on is the best research around. So the grant applications get sent to experts in the field. They feed back what they think of the applications. Then our panel assess them, and then that gets fed back to the trustees before we decide on what BCRT are going to fund. So that ensures that we're always funding quality research. As I said, we'll fund any type of primary bone cancer. So at the minute, mostly we've funded osteosarcoma with over £700,000, followed by Ewing's, then general primary bone cancer, Ewing's and osteo mixed, and we've also funded some chondrosarcoma and chordoma. So just to give you an idea of two separate grants, so I've picked one of our smallest grants, that's due for finishing at the end of this year, done by the group in Newcastle. And that's basically, they think that there might be something in looking for osteosarcoma cells that are floating around your system, in your blood system. So they want to check if it's possible that you can detect them, and that if you are detecting them, then it's the specific osteosarcoma cells that you're looking for. So that might help with early detection of metastases. So obviously, £10,000 doesn't sound like that much when you compare it to the bottom one, but a really worthwhile study because it could lead on to a much bigger study, and it could have major impacts for primary bone cancer patients. So the fellowship, this is the biggest grant that we've ever awarded for £225,000. That's a 3-year study for someone to gain a PhD qualification, and that's looking at novel therapies and targets in osteosarcoma again. And that's so much more money because whilst the first grant is just looking at one specific thing, this second grant is trying to look at a range of different things to get an overall picture. Yeah. So, what we've decided on recently is to look at our research strategy. So for those of you who were in the research session yesterday, this is what you're feeding into. Because what we want to do is make sure any further money that comes in gets spent in the best possible way. So what we did back in May is we had a meeting, the BCRT met with eminent researchers and medical professionals from the bone cancer research world, and we got them all in a room for 2 days and asked what were the issues they thought, or where should we spend the money. We basically just milked them for 2 days for their ideas of how we can make BCRT better. So what they came up with was tumour banking was one of the main things to come out. Can't do research without access to samples. And we also discussed possible solutions as to how we could get, if tumour is already banked, how we could get access, scientists access to that. Awareness was a big thing, not only of BCRT as a charity, but also what we fund and who we will fund and who can apply for funding for us. So we need more awareness amongst the research and medical professionals. Collaboration was a big thing, both with other cancer charities, but a big thing that came out was maybe setting up some kind of network between researchers and medics. So, you know, if you want to collaborate with someone, you know who to go to, or if someone's doing some research in the south, then someone up in Scotland isn't doing the same thing, or just generally, if you've got an idea that you want to bounce off someone. So it was all about basically bringing the bone cancer community together to give a better idea of what's going on and how we can better it. And then the different funding options were discussed as well. So we discussed talking again, like keeping the ideas grants and maybe also trying to get bone cancer researchers much younger. So maybe when undergraduates are doing their medical degree, we could maybe fund them to do a year out in research so that they learn about bone cancer whilst they're doing their undergraduate degree, but that also might spark them to carry on doing it in the future. So it raises awareness, but it also will hopefully get them into the bone cancer research world. And then we also talked about, these are all just ideas at the minute, and I'll welcome any suggestions you have. And then we also talked about maybe having like a career development fellowship or possibly a chair of bone cancer research. So those were the main ideas. Lots of ideas came out, but they sort of fit into those 4 categories. So what we wanted to do yesterday was to get your opinion on it, because we want to make the research strategy fit everyone involved with BCRT. So bearing in mind I put this together at 6 o'clock this morning because we only had the session yesterday, it seems that those are the things that came out of yesterday from you guys, so which was really interesting. So different take on things. So the tumour banking, yes, it's important, people need access, but I think there was also an element of people wanting to contribute to the science themselves. Awareness, slightly different in not what funding's available, but how we get our awareness out there at the start of someone's journey or all the way through someone's journey, just to make people know that they're aware of us and know that we're here. Again, collaboration. And the network one was really interesting because the exact same thing came out because we all come together for the conference. This is what was said also at the research strategy meeting. We all come together, we discuss our ideas, and then we all go home. So we need some kind of network that will keep us all connected and pushing BCRT forward and ultimately the research. And then again, the funding, we sort of discussed what we should spend our funding on and what was the best way forward. So obviously the results from yesterday need a lot more looking into, but I just thought it was really interesting that both sets of people came with very similar ideas of how to make BCRT much better. So that's the end. Thank you very much. And if anyone has any extra ideas, I think we're running out of time now, but either throw them at me or feel free to email us with any suggestions if you're not comfortable with saying anything now. Thank you. Okay.